everybody, welcome back to the Banger Bar. I am Sarah, and I've had a very busy last couple of weeks going to rock gigs. Aside from that, I'm really encouraging you to hit that subscribe button so you can get more updates from Banger and of course from me. This week, we're reviewing an album that might surprise you. Obviously, this isn't heavy metal, but the guy who is intimately involved with making this album actually had a band that irrefutably shaped heavy metal. That band, of course, is Kyuss, and Josh Homme of Kyuss, who went on to form Queens of the Stone Age. That's what we're reviewing today. It's their 7th studio album, it's called Villains, and it comes out today via Matador Records. If you haven't heard Kyuss's records, Blues for the Red Sun, or Welcome to Sky Valley, I highly recommend that you check them out because they did fundamentally change the stoner rock genre. They're very important. The other reason why we're reviewing this record is because there's a lot of bands who have kind of been appropriated by the metal community despite not really being heavy metal. So for an example, I would say Clutch. They're essentially a blues rock band. I know a lot of you hate on them, but they made albums like Blast Tyrant, which are blues rock records. There's bands like King Dude. This guy has a history in extreme metal, but in King Dude, he sounds like a Luciferian Johnny Cash. For a third great example, Kimmy Karki. He was the guitarist for Reverend Bizarre, and he now makes solo folk music that sounds like Leonard Cohen. So clearly, metalheads, we're not a one-dimensional bunch. We like our music, we like a lot of our music, and that's all I'm gonna say about the subject. Oh, my babies. Queens of the Stone Age has really hit their stride, especially with 2002's Songs for the Deaf. The reason why the last decade has been a little bit strange is because their 2007 album, Era Vulgaris, is widely considered to be their worst offering. It just has a different vocal style and it's pretty disjointed. Then the band had a 6-year gap leading up to 2013's Like Clockwork. That album is unusually dark for Queens of the Stone Age, and the reason why is because bandleader Josh actually died on the operating table and was brought back to life, and it caused him to be bedridden for months, and it resulted in this very moody, gloomy record. Probably because the previous album sounded so dark, Josh actually told Rolling Stone in an interview that he wanted Villains to sound much more dancey. Did he achieve that? Let's check it out. The opening track is ironically named Feet Don't Fail Me. At the end of this clip, you get the very often repeated in the song chorus, "Feet don't fail me now." And if there's anything that Josh knows how to do, it's how to make a fucking killer chorus. Think about this. No one knows. Nicotine, Valium, Vicodin, marijuana, ecstasy, and alcohol. Whatever you do. As I said, this guy knows how to make a great repeating verse. On top of that, musically, you're hearing these great funky guitar and bass lines, and everything kind of sounds like Primus or Living Colour or, you know, the Red Hot Chili Peppers. This is a groovy start, and it's super enjoyable, and you're already getting Josh's very smooth, kind of crooning voice. But then, of course, in classic Queen style, things start going a little bit darker. It's calling me, it's calling me, it's calling me, it's calling me. Already, this record features that thing that can either very much heighten or slightly plague Queens of the Stone Age albums. Basically, they're jamming in a lot of stuff. You're going from punk to rock to stoner to electro to weird shuffling, and it just jumps all over the place. In my mind, the perfect approach to this was Songs for the Deaf. And the reason why it works so well is because rather than jamming everything into every single song, they literally use transitions between each song where they have a radio dial that's switching between the radio stations. So you get a really cool shuffling dark song and then you have a radio switching it to a different station. What they made with that record was their definitive statement. So much so that Decibel magazine named the record in the top 100 greatest metal albums of the 2000s, and they put the record at number 7. Both of the records that came out around this album, which include Rated R and Lullabies to Paralyze, are similarly rock-oriented, and I think that they skillfully skirted between genres. And this record, I'm already starting to put it in a similar category as these records, and that is a good thing. So let's check it out on the next song. So here's another example of this genre blending within a record. The song that I'm about to play doesn't sound anything like the one that I just played for you. This one is very stripped down, it's very punk rock, and yet somehow it has a carnivalesque feel. This is called Head Like a Haunted House. It might sound odd to say it, but there's a track like this on pretty much all Queens of the Stone Age records. On Era Vulgaris, that song was Sick, Sick, Sick. And on Lullabies to Paralyze, it was Skin on Skin, even though that song took it at about half speed of the 2 songs before it. But there's lots of examples of this style appearing throughout the Queen's discography. But don't forget, this is Queens we're talking about. So of course they're gonna put a great solo in there, and also Josh's warbling croon.
Oh. Hey.
The sound of a band that is aging well, and it really bodes well for the band that this album doesn't feature any guest collaborations or appearances, which is extremely unusual for this project. It's funny because the first couple times that I listened to this album, I didn't particularly like it, but that's the sign of a good rock record, is something that the more you listen to it, the more you like it, and that's exactly what's happening to me on this album. The last song that I want to talk about is the one that ends the album. It's called Villains of Circumstance, and I would say it's kind of the title track. While I do find this song kind of boring, not gonna lie, I do like it from a symbolic perspective. And the reason why I say that is because the idea of there being a villain of circumstance versus a victim of circumstance is very intriguing to me. And the band actually made a statement about that exact thing, saying that based on where you are on a fence, you can either be construed as a victim or a villain. Thankfully, the band goes out with a bang and the song gets much better near the end. There's this nice shift at the end of the song where it starts getting heavier and is all instrumental and gets louder. And then Queens ends it off the way that only Queens can. It's funny because I want to play you more clips, but I don't think it's really going to help. I think either you get Queens of the Stone Age or you don't. Queens is a weird, heavy, challenging rock band, and they're one of the only big, heavy, challenging rock bands that are doing as well as they are. They're one of the biggest bands in the world, for Christ's sakes, and that's pretty goddamn impressive. And the nice thing about this record, Villains, is that I would place it above Era Vulgaris, which to me is their career misstep. I think it's better than 2013's Like Clockwork. I would place it alongside, not as good as, but it is close to Rated R, it's close to Lullabies to Paralyze, and it's close to Songs for the Deaf. And that's a great thing. This band is aging incredibly well, and while there are some parts of their songs that I don't think work that great, for example, the opening track, I was getting a little bit of a way too all over the place genre style that was starting to be a little bit irritating. And right at the end there, I thought that the song could have gone a little faster and a little bit heavier, but this is the sound of a band aging gracefully and consistently, and that is a lot more than we can expect from most. For all these reasons, I am giving this record 3.5, well, maybe 4. No, 3.5. 4. No, 3.5 skulls out of 5 here on Overkill Reviews. Before we go, first I have to tell you to subscribe again, but I also have to tell you about an underground metal band, because I know that you guys in the comments really like that I rep underground metal, and Queens of the Stone Age sure as shit ain't underground metal. That's okay though. The album that I want to talk to you about is The New Pagan Altar. It is the 4th and final studio recording by the band. I love the band, so check out Room of Shadows today. It is a hugely fitting end to their beautiful discography, and it merges basically Witchfinder General style doom with Uriah Heep, Rainbow, and Dire Straits. That's everything. Have a great weekend.